Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Big Blue Sports here on WCVF 88.9 FM, the campus and community voice of Fredonia. It is Thursday, March 27th, and even more importantly, happy opening day to all the baseball fans who celebrate. Of course, today is the start of the Major League Baseball regular season for 28 out of the 30 Major League teams, as the Dodgers and the Cubs have already played regular season games. They played over in Japan earlier on, and the Dodgers won. I think they played 2 games over there, if I'm correct, and the Dodgers won both of those games. So the LA Dodgers are a couple of games into what is expected to be a thoroughly dominant season. Of course, they'll have a full season of Shohei Ohtani, if all goes well, and all the other stars that they've paid for, and all this great stuff that baseball fans are just thrilled about another year, especially after a World Series last year between quite possibly and quite probably the 2 most unpopular teams in all of baseball. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how this season pans out. I myself am a St. Louis Cardinals fan, and I don't quite know what to expect. As first pitch of their game is at 4:15 today as the Cardinals host the Minnesota Twins. There's a handful of other games, and we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. I'm also going to talk about my March Madness bracket, and I have to talk about this, and I'm not trying to flex, and I'm not trying to brag, but I will just throw this out there. My bracket is phenomenal. It is terrific. So I have, obviously, the Sweet 16 starts tonight, and the Sweet 16 today and tomorrow, and then the Elite 8 Saturday, Sunday. I have 13 of my 16 Sweet 16 teams are still in it, and I have every Elite 8 team still in it. Knock on wood. I have my Final Four is, and I'll go through the bracket a little bit later in the show, but I have my Final Four is Auburn, Texas Tech, Duke, and Tennessee. Yes, I had Texas Tech over Florida and St. John's in their region, and I called it with St. John's. I called it. I knew St. John's was going to get eliminated early. I didn't have them losing quite that early. I had them going down in the Sweet 16, and I was right, and I would just like to point that out, that I was right, but whatever. I'm not gonna come on here and flex. I'm not gonna do that. I might a little bit later in the show. But we're gonna start talking about some Fredonia sports, because as the spring season really has gotten underway, I want to take a look at some of the teams who have found some success, and perhaps more than anyone else is the lacrosse team. They have had a fantastic start to their season, 4-1 through the first 5 games before heading south to Puerto Rico for their spring break trip last week, which of course was why I was not with you on the air last week. The Blue Devils did go 0-2 in those games. They lost 21-11 to Worcester State University and 20-6 in their matchup with Springfield College. And Springfield is like a dominant, very tough program. They've had 2 games since then, both SUNYAC games, and they split those games. Their SUNYAC opener, they won. They beat Plattsburgh 13-12 at Plattsburgh. That was last Saturday, an overtime win with Gabby Lewinsky scoring the overtime winner. And their other SUNYAC game that they've played so far was just yesterday at Oswego. And Oswego, a very tough team, and a rough loss for Fredonia, falling 21-6. So they're sitting at 5-4 overall on the season, 1-1 in conference play. They are at home for the first time in SUNYAC play on Saturday. They host New Paltz at 1 p.m. And again, New Paltz is usually pretty good too. So that'll be no doubt a tough test for them. Their regular season goes for about another month, so they've got pretty much all of SUNYAC play wide open. They do have one non-conference matchup. That is April 2nd. That's next Wednesday at Hilbert up in Buffalo. So that game actually will be played at Frontier High School, the graduating place of our sports director, Mitch Rusi. So other teams, of course, you've got baseball and softball returning from their respective trips. And baseball has also had a good start to their season. They haven't played any conference games yet, and the original plan was that conference play was going to start today, and it looks like that has been changed according to FredoniaBlueDevils.com. They are at Oswego. They have a doubleheader that starts at noon tomorrow. We'll see how the weather allows them to cooperate with that. But they're off to a 7-4 start. They won one game. They beat Keuka 9-1 before heading down to Florida for their spring games, and they did fairly well. They beat Ohio Wesleyan 10-7, beat Gwynedd Mercy 7-6 in 10 innings of play, beat Rutgers Newark 7-4, so they started 3-0. A very high-scoring game against Clarkson, lost 21-14. They beat Vassar 8-7, lost to Wisconsin Eau Claire, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce that, 17-8. They played Brockport, old friend Brockport, lost 10-2, and then finished it off with a 3-2 win over Springfield College. And they had two more games after that, actually. They beat Knox College 9-3 and then lost 7-0 to Carleton. They will be returning home this weekend, and the baseball season's a little bit different. They'll be returning home on Sunday for a doubleheader against non-conference rival Pitt Greensburg starting at 1 p.m. at Ludwig Field, weather permitting. Baseball's a little bit different because a lot of other sports you have your non-conference play and then your conference play. That's how basketball operates. You know, you have all of your out of conference and then you play your conference opponents. And lacrosse, aside from that match against Hilbert, is also the same way. But baseball and softball are a little bit different. They intersperse more than the other teams do. Softball has had a little bit of a rough start, but they played some really, really good teams when they were down in Florida, and I'll go through them. They started it off with an 8-0 loss to Springfield College. They lost 4-2 against Rowan University, who is the number 4 ranked team in the country. Then lost 9-1 to University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, who is ranked number 19 in the country. They played Framingham State University, lost 5-1. Played Wisconsin Whitewater, lost 4-0. Wisconsin Whitewater is ranked 21st in the country. So that just gives you an idea of the level of competition they played. 5-6 loss to Hope College, a 3-2 loss to Amherst College, 9-0 loss to Simpson College, a 3-7 loss to the University of Wisconsin River Falls, and a 15-0 loss to University of Wisconsin Stout. But they finished off the trip very well. A 1-0 win over Farmingdale State and a 7-5 win over Trinity College. So they finished the spring trip by winning their last two games, 2-10 overall record. They were supposed to play a doubleheader at Geneseo yesterday. That was postponed due to poor weather and moved to later in the season. They'll play that on April 23rd. So they will be back in action, presumably, next week for a 3 p.m. doubleheader at Hilbert up in Hamburg at 3 p.m. Next Tuesday, they will be at home Friday, April 4th at 3 p.m. for a doubleheader against SUNY Morrisville. And again, softball, same case as baseball, where they kind of intersperse non-conference and conference opponents rather than just doing the full non-conference play, then conference play. Track and field is getting ready to start as well. Of course, the indoor season ended a few weeks ago, and the outdoor season is about to start. The men's and women's meet, their first meet of the season is not this weekend, but the weekend after, Friday, April 4th, and Saturday, April 5th. It's a two-day meet at SUNY Geneseo. They've got 4 meets on the schedule. The two-day meet at Geneseo, Friday, April 11th at the University of Rochester, Friday, April 18th and Saturday the 19th at Christopher Newport, and Friday, April 25th and Saturday, April 26th at St. John Fisher up in Rochester, up near Rochester. And then the SUNYAC Championships are Friday, May 2nd and Saturday, May 3rd, the same day as our spring radiothon here at Fredonia Radio Systems. And those championships will be hosted at SUNY Cortland. So those are a look at those teams also getting close to a trip down to Florida for the cheer team, as Fredonia's cheer team heading down for the NCAA Nationals, which is in Daytona Beach. That is every year in April, and that is next weekend. So best of luck to them as they compete in this competition is against, I was speaking to one of the members of the cheer team earlier today, and she told me that the competition is unlike absolutely anything else that any members of the team have ever competed in. So it will be definitely fun, exciting, and looking forward to finding out how they do, and definitely best of luck to them on their trip that, again, is not this weekend, but next weekend. So that is a look at your Fredonia sports. I'm going to take a quick break. Lot to talk about on the show today. Of course, going to talk a little bit about the Bandits, a little bit about the Sabres. I was at the game Tuesday night. It was a great win, even though there is no way Buffalo deserved even 1 point in that game, the way they played for the majority of it. The Bills, not really a whole lot to talk about for the Bills right now, which is not super common that you can say that. And then, of course, talking about March Madness and opening day and my predictions for this MLB season. So thanks for tuning in this afternoon to Big Blue Sports on WCVF 88.9 FM, the campus and community voice of Fredonia.
Home has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message.
Hey, I'm just calling to let you know that you're listening to WCVF 88.9 The Voice.
And welcome back to Big Blue Sports. So for this part of the show, I'm going to kind of speed run the Buffalo sports because a lot of today, this is kind of a little bit different. A lot of today is not about Buffalo, which is very bizarre. Those types of days don't happen very often on Big Blue Sports. So cherish them when they do, when I'm not flapping my jaw about Buffalo 24/7. And I'm going to try and not do the same thing that I do every week when I just go on and on about the Sabres. I do it every single week. So we'll talk about the Bandits first. Of course, last week being spring break, I didn't get a chance to recap their game out west in Calgary, beating the Roughnecks 11-6. And they had a doubleheader last weekend at home against the Las Vegas Desert Dogs, a 13-10 win, and then an overtime loss, 11-10 at Albany on Saturday. So I'm going to do a little bit of a shameless self-plug. So in my social media practicum class, I have social media accounts that are dedicated to a website that I've created that covers the Buffalo Bandits. And it is called Relax because it's about lacrosse. Funny. And you can follow it on social medias. It's _Lax Lacrosse. And what I've started doing is on Twitter, I've started live tweeting updates of the games. And doing that while being a fan in the stands and my season ticket seats in section 123 is challenging, especially when the Bandits decide to score 8 goals in the first quarter, which they did. And it was I've talked a lot on the show about, in my mind, the importance of having what I like to call a diversified attack. And that's where you can beat a team several different ways. That's what makes the Bandits so good. So the Bandits put up in total 13 goals on the Desert Dogs. Only one player had more than 2. Chris Cloutier had a hat trick, and he was the only one who did. So Buffalo, of course, first quarter, they went on an avalanche, a roll. Rookie Lucas Nielsen, their first-round draft pick from last year, actually scored his first NLL goal just over a minute into the game on a beautiful pass from Josh Byrne, which was awesome. Chris Cloutier made it 2-0. Dane Smith 3-0. Josh Byrne 4-0. Dane Smith 5-0. Justin Martin got in on the scoring to make it 6-0. Kyle Buchanan 7-0. Chris Cloutier 8-0 before Vegas did score before the end of the quarter. This game started getting a little close. The Bandits were outscored 6-1 in the fourth quarter, but still held on for the 13th. Buffalo went into the fourth quarter leading 12-4, and they ended up winning at 13-10. So Vegas made it a little close. That's not great, but the Bandits still able to get the win. Buffalo, they clinched a playoff spot with the win over Vegas. They could have clinched at least one home playoff game with a win over Albany. They did not win that game. The Bandits still sitting atop the National Lacrosse League at 11-3. The Saskatchewan Rush are right behind them. They are a game behind the Bandits at 10-4. Both Buffalo and Saskatchewan have clinched playoff spots. Then the remainder of the teams, you have the Halifax Thunderbirds at 9-5. The San Diego Seals and Colorado Mammoth at 8-6. The Rochester Nighthawks 8-7. The Vancouver Warriors and Georgia Swarm 7-7. The Calgary Roughnecks 7-8. The Ottawa Black Bears 6-8. Albany Firewolves 6-9. The Toronto Rock and Philadelphia Wings 5-9. And then the Las Vegas Desert Dogs at 3-12, who have been eliminated from playoff contention. So as you can kind of tell, the middle of the NLL standings are a little bit of a mess. There's a lot of teams that are right within a few games of each other. You have Buffalo and Saskatchewan kind of running away with it. I mean, even Halifax is only 2 games back of Buffalo. So you have Buffalo at 11-3, then Saskatchewan's a game back of them. Halifax is a game back of them, and San Diego and Colorado are a game back of them. So you have like a few teams Then one game behind is a couple teams. One game behind is a couple teams. Half a game behind is another team. So the last several weeks of the NLL season are going to be very fun to watch. The Bandits' remaining schedule, the rest of the way, they have some games against some fairly good teams. The Bandits have 4 games left on their schedule. They are back at home again this weekend. They are home on Saturday night at 7:30. They host the Vancouver Warriors. Then on April 5th, they are at Colorado. April 12th, home against Halifax. That's going to be a big one. And they finish the regular season on April 19th at Georgia. So it's the last few games of this season. You've got games, I mean, you're playing teams that are in playoff spots or fighting for playoff spots. In the case of Vancouver, Colorado, Halifax, and Georgia are all in playoffs. So it's going to be a big time match to watch. You got Vancouver and Georgia are both 7-7, and then Colorado's 8-6, and Halifax is 9-5. So you don't have a game left against a team below 500. It's a tough stretch. The Bandits for sure have their work cut out for them, but I think their fast start gives them a little bit of room. Obviously, everyone wants to see the Bandits be the number 1 overall seed and have the playoffs run through Buffalo again, but they also have done well for themselves on the road in the postseason. They did that last year. They were the number 4 seed. They had to go on the road to Toronto and beat them. And in the NLL finals, they had to go on the road and beat Albany. They did. They won both of those games. So I don't think that being the number 1 seed it's one of those things that it's like you don't necessarily need it to be successful, but boy, would it be nice. So the Bandits, of course, 4 games left. Their next game Saturday, taking on the Vancouver Warriors at home. We'll turn our attention to the Sabres, which is not quite as regrettable after a win on Tuesday night, even if it was a win that, to be completely honest, I don't... So I was at that game. I'll give a little bit of insight. So I went to Buffalo on Tuesday for a career fair that I was at. And included in the cost of the ticket to the career fair was you got tickets to the Sabres Senators game. So I went to the game with my girlfriend, and we sat down in the corner, and the play was in Buffalo's end for like 75% of this game. And when it was not, it was in the back of the Ottawa net. Like, I genuinely, having sat through and watched this entire game, I don't know how the Sabres won. Like, they were outplayed in like every single way. Ottawa outshot them 32-24. Ottawa out-hit them 25-16. Buffalo had 8 penalty minutes compared to Ottawa's 2. Ottawa won 71% of the faceoffs in this game, which is disgusting. Ottawa destroyed them from the faceoff dot. They cashed in on the power play, and yet the Sabres found a way to win. And a lot of it has to do with the play of James Reimer in net, the Sabres backup goalie. Of course, Reimer's bounced around the league. He's been with a handful of teams. Reimer was phenomenal in this game. He was down in front of us in the first and third periods, and he was excellent. He is the reason I remarked to Chloe at one point in the game, I said, Reimer is the reason why this is even close right now, because Buffalo was just getting thoroughly outworked. Ottawa got on the board very, very early. The Sabres took a penalty in the first minute of the game, and almost right off the bat, Brady Tkachuk scores on the power play with the assist from Drake Batherson and old friend Dylan Cousins. Ottawa's up 1-0 very early, and you're thinking, okay, here we go. But the Sabres do get one back at first. So it looked like there was a pass from Jack Quinn, a stretch pass, found J.J. Peterka on a break, and Peterka beat Ottawa goalie Anton Forsberg to tie the game. However, Ottawa ended up challenging for offside, and on the replay, it was fairly clear. So that goal was waved off. The score remained 1-0 Ottawa. But later in the period, Peterka and Quinn strike again. And these two have, you remember a couple of years ago, these two, when they were on the line with Cousins, they had such great chemistry together. And we haven't seen that in a little while. And we saw that on Tuesday. Peterka had a beautiful behind-the-back pass and found Quinn, who buried it with about a minute and a half left in the period after one assist from Peterka and McLeod. It's 1-1 after one. In the second period, Buffalo again finds themselves shorthanded, and again, the terrible Sabres penalty kill gives up a goal. David Perron scores his 7th of the year. This game is how I found out David Perron is still in the league. I did not know that he was still in the NHL. That was kind of cool to find out. So Perron scores a power play goal with assists from Ridley Gregg and Claude Giroux. Ottawa takes a 2-1 lead. A little bit later in the period, a scramble in front. The puck kicks out to Jacob Bernard Docker, who, of course, was one of the two players the Sabres got in the deal when they traded Dylan Cousins and Dennis Gilbert to the Ottawa Senators. It was like the deal, the primary part of that deal was Josh Norris, who, again, is still out with an injury. But Bernard Docker was also thrown in that deal as well. And the puck came out to him, and this one was right down in front of us, too. We were sitting in section 102. And Bernard Docker fired a wrist shot that just beat Forsberg, just plain beat him. Second goal of the year, his first as a Buffalo Sabre, scores the game-tying goal against his former team. Assists from Tyson Kozak and Peyton Krebs. I thought Krebs had a great game, too. I thought that Krebs was one of the few Sabres that I thought looked really good in this game. I thought the majority of the game, I also thought Owen Power was solid. But, I know there's always complaints about him, and I talked about that a couple of weeks ago. So the Sabres tie it at 2 going to the third period. They're getting thoroughly, dominated and still somehow tie the game at 2. In the third period, very early in the third, a pass to the front of the net. Zach Benson behind the net, a pass to the front. Tage Thompson shovels it in it was kind of like a backhand flip type deal. He shovels it in to give the Sabres a 3-2 lead, which they would hold onto. Buffalo beats Ottawa 3-2. They improve to 29, 35, and 6. The Sabres are over 500 at home, which is interesting. They are 18, 14, and 3 at home. That's kind of interesting. I would not think that they would be that good on home ice. Buffalo still last place in the Atlantic Division with 64 points. Ottawa is sitting in 4th with 79 points. If we're looking at the wild card spot, why are we looking at this? I don't know. The Sabres are 11 points out of a playoff spot with 12 games left to play. Not to mention, they are behind absolutely everyone else in the Eastern Conference. They are 1 point behind the Philadelphia Flyers with 3 games more than the Flyers left to play. And Philadelphia made an interesting decision. The Flyers fired head coach John Tortorella today, which I was a little bit surprised by. I mean, I was surprised by because of the timing. The Flyers only have 9 games left this season, so I'm a little surprised that they didn't wait till the end of the year to fire him. But I'm wondering if it's the type of deal where, okay, they knew it wasn't working out with Tortorella. Let's fire him and promote, if they want their assistant to take over as the next head coach. This now gives that head coach 9 games with the current team. So I guess, it does make sense. But General Manager Danny Briere making that decision today, this morning, as the Flyers fired head coach John Tortorella. And I don't know what to expect for the rest of the Sabres season. Like I said, there's 12 games left. They play tonight. Tonight is actually their Pride Night game at home against the Pittsburgh Penguins at 7 p.m. It's the Pride Night game that they can't wear the Pride Night warm-up jerseys because some people got offended and thought that, it was the worst thing in the world to wear a rainbow for 10 minutes in a warm-up of a hockey game, but that's, not my decision. And the NHL completely, bowed down and catered to that because everyone knows how skilled of a commissioner Gary Bettman is. That's to say not. But he is retiring soon, which is really cool. I'm very much excited about that. So the Sabres hosting the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is a game between two teams close in the standings. The Penguins are only 5 points ahead of Buffalo, and the Sabres have 3 more games than them left to play. So the Sabres might not finish in dead last in the Atlantic Division, which would be, or in the Eastern Conference, which would be really cool because I think fans are kind of maybe just a little bit tired of their hockey team finishing in last place every single year. I did see that today is Terry Pegula's birthday. Happy birthday, Terry. But I saw the social medias. I immediately went to the comments section, and I'm thinking, the phone's ringing. That's lovely. I remember thinking, this is going to be hilarious. This is going to be an iconic comment section. And former sports director Trevor Hauer had commented, he said, I'm just here to read these comments or something like that. He's like, this comment section is going to be civil, something like that. Because, of course, obviously the discontent and the frustration with the Sabres. So that is going to be the happy birthday, Terry. Treat yourself and sell the team. That was one of the other comments that was left on there. I always feel bad for the social media admin because it's like those poor people have no control over the inner workings of the team, and they have a regular posting schedule. They just have to get things out there. You know what? I have so much respect for the social media admin, and I love every once in a while when I see the comments that people are like, poor admin, it's not you. It's like, it's not you, it's them. But it's just, there's a lot of frustration for sure. But we'll see how the Sabres finish out the last 12 games of their season. So we're going to take a quick break. When I come back, I am going to make my predictions for opening day. I'm very, very excited about it. And then we'll finish the show talking about how absolutely spectacular and awesome my March Madness bracket is and where I think the rest of the tournament's going to go. So thank you for tuning in this afternoon to Big Blue Sports Podcast here on WCVF 88.9 FM, the campus and community voice of Fredonia. Back in a few.
Working the skinny tie, slugging down fruit juice, extra tall, extra wide, blue-eyed devil, blue-eyed devil. Digging it, come on. Moving door to door to door. Stone motel room.
like what you're listening to? Then stay tuned for more local music on WCVF 88.9 The Voice.
Hello?
King Candy has been kidnapped.
What? King Candy's been kidnapped, and they're holding a search party in McEwen G24. When?
March 28th from 4 to 6 p.m.
I'll be right there.
And welcome back to Big Blue Sports. Yes, absolutely. Tomorrow is our event. King Candy has been kidnapped. And it's up to you all to find who the kidnapper is and return King Candy to safety. It is our Candyland-themed mystery event tomorrow in McEwen Hall G24. Very, very excited. My alter ego, Mr. Mint, is a suspect. But I will say, they're trying to frame me. I didn't do anything. You can't prove anything. Nothing. Anyways, moving on to opening day in baseball. I have to have fun with that. I absolutely, I was just not going to have fun with that. I mean, if anyone who knows me personally, you know that I'm going to take things 15 times over the top. So today is opening day in Major League Baseball for 28 out of the 30 teams, of course, as I mentioned, because 2 teams already played. The Dodgers and Cubs already played 2 games. A full day of games getting started at 3 p.m. at Yankee Stadium in New York City as the New York Yankees host the Milwaukee Brewers. This game on ESPN. And, of course, a lot of Yankees fans around here. I'm on your side in this series because the Brewers are a division rival of my favorite team. Looks like it's going to be Freddie Peralta going for the Brewers and Carlos Rodon on the mound for the Yankees. 3:07 at the Rogers Center up in Toronto. An AL East battle as the Toronto Blue Jays play host to the Baltimore Orioles. Zach Eflin will get the start for Baltimore. Jose Barrios will start for Toronto. 4:05 at Nationals Park in Washington, D.C., the Washington Nationals play host to the Philadelphia Phillies. Zach Wheeler will take the mound for the Phillies, while Mackenzie Gore will make the opening day start for the Nats. Also at 4:05 down in Arlington, Texas at Globe Life Field, the Texas Rangers play host to the Boston Red Sox in a battle between 2 teams who are some of the favorites in the American League this year. Garrett Crochet, of course, a longtime former reliever for the White Sox, getting the start for the Red Sox. And Nathan Eovaldi, former Boston Red Sox pitcher, getting the start for Texas today. 4:10 from Lone Depot Park down in Miami, the Miami Marlins host the Pittsburgh Pirates. Sandy Alcantara starting for the Marlins, and Paul Skeens gets the opening day start for the Pirates, as was predicted and not surprising. Also at 4:10, Cincinnati, Great American Ballpark, the Cincinnati Reds host the San Francisco Giants. I'll be interested to see if they do a tribute for Pete Rose pregame. I bet they do. Logan Webb starting for the Giants, and Hunter Green gets the start for the Reds. Also at 4:10 at Rate Field in Chicago, the White Sox play host to the LA Angels. And the White Sox try and bounce back from a season where they broke the record for the most losses in a single season. Yusei Kikuchi gets the start for the Angels. This is how I learned how Yusei Kikuchi was an Angels pitcher. I didn't know he was there. And Sean Burke gets the start for the White Sox. All right. 4:10 at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City. The Kansas City Royals play host to the Cleveland Guardians. And I don't know the first names of either. Ben Lively gets the start for the Guardians, while Cole Reagan gets the start for Kansas City. That's right, because they traded Brady Singer to the Reds. I forgot about that. Also at 4:10 from Dakin Park in Houston, Texas, the Astros hosting the New York Mets as Framber Valdez gets the start for Houston and Clay Holmes starts for the Mets. A lot of games starting at 4:10. Holy cow. 4:10 at Petco Park in San Diego. The San Diego Padres play host to the Atlanta Braves. Michael King gets the start for the Padres. Chris Sale will be on the mound for the Braves. 4:15 from Busch Stadium in St. Louis, Missouri. The St. Louis Cardinals open the 2025 season playing host to the Minnesota Twins. Sonny Gray gets the start for the Cardinals, while Pablo Lopez gets the start for the Cincinnati Reds. Of course, that Cardinals being my favorite team. Had to mention that. 7 o'clock tonight at Dodger Stadium, the LA Dodgers play host to the Detroit Tigers. Tariq Skubal on the mound for the Tigers, and Blake Snell will pitch for the Dodgers. Of course, the Dodgers are 2-0. That game also on ESPN. The Dodgers, the defending World Series champs. 10:10 tonight from Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona. The Arizona Diamondbacks play host to the Chicago Cubs, who as of right now are the worst team in Major League Baseball because they are 0-2 and the Dodgers are 2-0 and nobody else has played. As a Cardinals fan, I kind of like saying that. Justin Steele gets the start for the Cubs while Zach Gallen is on the mound for Arizona. And then the final game tonight, also starting at 10:10 from T-Mobile Park in Seattle. The Seattle Mariners play host to the Athletics. No city there because they're not Oakland anymore. They're just the Athletics because that makes sense. They're playing host to the A's. And Logan Gilbert gets the start for Seattle, and Luis Severino gets the start for the A's. Interesting. I did not know that Luis Severino was with the A's. So my predictions for the season, I'll go division by division. There's some divisions that are going to be really tough to call. And a good example of that is the AL East. Man, that division is going to be tough. I mean, you had last year, the standings from last year, you had the Rays were 80-82 and finished 4th in that division. And they would have been better, in any other division. You've got some good teams in there. You've got obviously the Yankees, the defending American League champions. They're going to be good. The Red Sox have been talked about. The Red Sox are a team that is probably going to be very good this year. The Baltimore Orioles are a young, up-and-coming team. They're great. You can't count the Rays out either. The Blue Jays maybe a little bit. So my prediction, and I'm going to get these so horrifically wrong, so don't clown me when I do. My division predictions, I think Baltimore goes on a run. I do still think the Yankees win the division. I think the Yankees win the AL East. I've got Baltimore 2nd, Boston 3rd, Tampa Bay 4th, and Toronto 5th, which is probably basic. I have but I do have both the Red Sox and Orioles making it as the top two. They were the Orioles and Red Sox, rather, as the top 2 wildcard teams. The AL Central also has some good teams. You've got, Detroit had a breakout year last year. The Guardians are a very solid team. The Royals are also, decent. They're a young team. They're looking to break out. They were a playoff team last year. I sort of think the AL Central seems to be a division that changes hands like every year. I don't know who I like in this division. I do think that, I don't know. I think the Royals could potentially take it. I don't know, but I think it's possible. I think they could. I'm gonna go with the fun route, though. I'm gonna go with the fun route, and I'm gonna say Detroit wins it. I'm gonna say Detroit wins the division, narrowly beating out Cleveland. Why? Because I want to. So Detroit 1, Cleveland 2, Kansas City 3, Minnesota 4, and the White Sox in dead last because they're a mess. And then the AL West. The AL West, the Rangers last year were a team that was very underwhelming at 78 and 84. That's a good baseball team. I think they bounce back. Do they take the AL West from Houston? Yes, I think they do. I think the Rangers win the AL East. I think Houston finishes 2nd, Seattle 3rd, and then I have the A's 4th and the Angels 5th. So my top seed in the AL, I don't know. My top seed in the AL, I think I'm probably going to give it to the Yankees. We'll go to the Yankees. I think the Rangers are the 2, Detroit is the 3, and then the 3 wild card teams in order are Baltimore, Boston, and Houston. I don't want the Astros to make it, but I think by some garbage and by being in a division with the A's and Angels, I think the Astros do end up sneaking in, narrowly beating out teams like Cleveland, Tampa Bay, and Kansas City. In the National League, the NL East, man, the NL East is another one that's a good division. There's a lot of teams that could very much be in contention. I still think the Phillies are the best team in the NL East. I know, there's a lot of hype around the Mets, and for good reason, but I think the Phillies take it. I think honestly, order-wise, I think it's the exact same as last year, which is probably lame, with the Phillies winning it, the Braves second. You know what? No. We'll have some fun. We'll say the Mets beat out the Braves. There you go. We'll say Phillies 1, Mets 2, Braves 3, Nationals 4, Marlins 5. With the Mets and Braves making the playoffs as well. The National League Central, which my team is in, is so painfully average. And the Cubs are the favorite. I think more love needs to be given to the Reds. I don't know. There's a few teams that are sort of in that mix. I think the Reds have some good pitching that could definitely help them. The Brewers might still be the best team in this division. Yeah, so I'll say I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to say the Reds go on a run, and the Reds win the NL Central. I think Cincinnati wins it. Milwaukee is second. I think the Cardinals... All right, fine. I won't be a homer. We'll say the Cubs third, the Cardinals fourth, and the Pirates fifth. I don't think the Cardinals are going to be that good this year. I think their pitching is a disaster. I think their bullpen is fine, I think, and their offense might be fine, but their starting pitching is such a disaster. That team is going to give up 7 runs a game, I swear. And the Pirates obviously last because the Pirates are terrible. And then the National League West, the Dodgers winning the division is you can't make an argument for any other team. I think the Dodgers win it. I don't know about the Padres. The Diamondbacks, of course, Arizona was a team that they were in the World Series 2 years ago. You know, does Arizona have a bounce back? They got some good young players. I think they'll be good again. I really do. I think Arizona's good. I do think San Diego is better, though. And I think the Padres finished second, Diamondbacks third, and then the Giants fourth, and the Rockies, who are terrible, finish in last. So my wild card teams, my number 1 seed, Dodgers. Come on. I mean, of course it's going to be the Dodgers. The number 2 seed, the Phillies. Number 3 will be the Reds as champions of the NL Central. The top wild card team, I think the top wild card team this year is the Mets. I think the Mets have a phenomenal season this year. I think they're number 1. The Padres are the number 5 seed, and the Braves get the 6. So my playoff predictions then would be let's see here. Let me do in my head. So in the AL, it would be the Yankees and Rangers getting the first round byes. You would have the Detroit Tigers taking on the Houston Astros, and the Orioles and Red Sox going at each other. I think the Orioles beat the Red Sox, and I think the Tigers become the heroes of America and beat the Astros. In the National League, the Dodgers and Padres get the first round byes, and let's see. So it would be the Cincinnati Reds would take on the Atlanta Braves, and the Mets would face the Padres. I think the Padres beat the Mets because the Mets can have nothing good, and the Braves beat the Reds. So the ALDS would be Yankees. It would be Yankees versus Orioles and Rangers versus Tigers. The NLDS would be Phillies versus Braves. That would be a great series. And it would be Phillies versus Braves and Dodgers versus Braves and Phillies Padres. I believe in the AL, I think the Orioles go nuts this year. I think the Orioles do similar to like what Arizona and Texas did 2 years ago and just go nuts. I think the Orioles pull off the upset and beat the Yankees in the ALDS. Sorry, Yankees fans. And in the other series, I think the Rangers beat the Tigers. In the NLDS, the Dodgers take care of the Braves, and the Phillies end up taking down the Padres. So the ALCS, Orioles versus Rangers. NLCS is a Dodgers-Phillies rematch. The Dodgers are a machine. They beat the Phillies to go to the World Series, and the Orioles beat the Rangers. So my World Series prediction is a matchup between the heavy-hitting Los Angeles Dodgers and the young, up-and-coming, hungry and gritty Baltimore Orioles. And the Orioles, once again, the Orioles become the heroes of America. Can you imagine if they could beat the Boston Red Sox and the LA Dodgers in one playoff run? Everyone would love them forever. And my prediction, because I want to have fun, is that the Baltimore Orioles are going to win the World Series this year because I want to be fun. No one wants to see a Dodgers-Yankees rematch. We'll see how it goes. So I'm going to take a short break and then finish out the show talking about March Madness and how great my bracket is and how the rest of the tournament I think will play out. So thanks for tuning in this afternoon to Big Blue Sports Podcast on WCVF 88.9 FM, the campus and community voice of Fredonia.
Hey, I'm Daniel Nunnally. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and you're listening to 88.9 WCVF The Voice.
It's gonna put a knee in the ground.
And welcome back to Big Blue Sports. So we're going to finish out the show today by talking about my March Madness bracket, and oh boy, has it been good. I mean, so I've been doing brackets, and I'm not going to just come in here and gloat about my bracket. I mean, I'm going to do that a little bit, but I will say that I've been doing brackets since I was 8 years old. 2013 was the first one that I did. And I did those, I did that bracket with my dad. And I remember he picked Louisville to win it that year. That was the year they did. And I've never gotten it right. I've talked about it before on the show. I've talked about it before where I had a stretch of 3 straight years where my championship pick made it to the championship game 3 straight years and lost every time. I picked Wisconsin in 2015. They lost to Duke. I picked North Carolina in 2016. They lost to Villanova. and I picked Gonzaga in 2017. They lost to North Carolina. But first, before I go into my bracket, are you struggling to find that apple a day to keep the doctor away? A SNAPS, aka Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program representative, will be available to help with your needs on the following dates. The first is next Tuesday, April 1st from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and the other is Tuesday, May 6th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Find the help you need at the Williams Center G135, the Help Hub Info Desk. So back to my bracket. I, being an Auburn Tigers fan, probably went with a little bit of a homer pick, and I picked Auburn to win it this year. Auburn, of course, the number 1 overall seed. My final 4, I have Auburn out of the South region. I have Auburn, who's number 1 seed. I have Texas Tech coming out of the West, the number 3 seed. I have Duke from the East. They're the 1 seed. And then I have Tennessee coming out of the Midwest. They are the number 2 seed. So the big games that I've gotten right, the games that I've gotten wrong. So in the entire round of 64, I got 2 games wrong. I got the 8-9 matchup in the South region. I picked Louisville to beat Creighton. Creighton won that game 89-75. And the other game that I got wrong was the Kansas and Arkansas game, which of course Arkansas, I've now gotten 2 of their games wrong. They are in the Sweet 16. I picked Kansas to beat Arkansas, and Arkansas beat them 79-72. Those were the only 2 games I got wrong in the entire first round. Every other game I got right, including the upset of McNeese over Clemson. Nailed that one. Some other upsets that I got, and I was lame. I didn't pick a ton, and then that was smart. I took New Mexico over Marquette, got that one right. I took Colorado State over Memphis, got that one. I took Drake over Missouri, got that. I did not fall for the Michigan versus UC San Diego. I picked Michigan. I was right. I did not pick Texas A&M to lose. I was right. I picked 2 games in the first round completely out of spite. A lot of people were picking Yale as a 13 seed to upset Texas A&M, and I didn't because I'm still mad at Yale for upsetting Auburn last year, and I was right. A&M won that game. The other game was the 8-9 matchup in the Midwest region, Gonzaga versus Georgia. Being an Auburn fan, I hate Georgia. And I remember I was going back and forth on this game, and I was like, I'm not sure who to pick. And I was like, well, okay, I don't like Georgia, so I'm going to pick Gonzaga. I did, and Gonzaga smoked them. So the only teams that I had in my Sweet 16 who are not were St. John's, McNeese. Yes, I had McNeese going on a sicko mode run and also beating Purdue. And I also had Texas A&M. And I had all 3 of those teams losing in the Sweet 16 anyways. My entire Elite 8 is still intact. And everything past that is still intact. I am in the top 0.1% of brackets in the world, according to ESPN, which is insane. So the games, of course, the Sweet 16 starts tonight. There are 4 games tonight, 4 games tomorrow. The first game at 7:09 on CBS in the East region, number 2 seed Alabama against 6 seed BYU. This was another one I picked kind of out of spite, but also because BYU I think is really good. I have BYU pulling off the upset in my bracket for this game. So if BYU wins that, I have the script. 7:39 on both TBS and True TV. I'm guessing another alternate cast is on True TV. In the West region, top seed Florida taking on number 4 seed Maryland. I have Florida winning this game. 9:39 tonight on CBS in the East region, top seed Duke against 4 seed Arizona. I have Duke winning this game. And then the final game at 10:09 on TBS in the West region, number 3 seed Texas Tech against 10 seed Arkansas. Really hoping that Texas Tech ends Arkansas's quote-unquote Cinderella run, and they can move on past that. The Sweet 16 continues tomorrow. The first game, 7:09 on CBS in the South region. The number 2 seed Michigan State taking on 6 seed Ole Miss. I have Michigan State winning this game. 7:39 on TBS in the Midwest region. 2 seed Tennessee against 3 seed Kentucky. I have Tennessee winning. 9:39 on CBS. Top seed Auburn takes on 5 seed Michigan in the South region. I, of course, have Auburn winning that one. And then the final game, 10:09 on TBS in the Midwest region, top seed Houston taking on number 4 seed Purdue. And I have Houston winning that game. So I hope all of your brackets are going as well as mine. Best of luck the rest of the way. and we'll see how the tournament goes, and we'll be back here next week to preview the Final Four. That is all for Big Blue Sports this afternoon. I want to thank everyone for tuning in at home, as well as everyone who makes this show possible here at FRS. We'll be back next week to talk Bandits, Final Four, and anything else that may come up in the sports world. So thank you for listening to me ramble for another full hour of Big Blue Sports, and we will catch you all next week for some more lovely sports discussion. We'll catch you next week. Bye now.